Must Watch on Intercut, where we wade our way through the week in theaters, streaming, and on demand. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, a contestant in the Inner Beauty Contest, it is Arturo Zurita.
I know there was one whopping movie that came out this week, so one day I'll get that reference, but I have not caught that one yet, Zach. I stuck with the streaming stuff this week, so there's a lot of streaming that we'll be talking about, but you went out of your way to go see Crimes of the Future.
I did. The probably biggest release of the weekend in theaters, I'd say.
Sure.
I mean, given that it's at least coming from like a big director, but there's also a bunch in streaming and a bunch of TV that we're excited to talk about as we get into the latest with what we are watching. And why don't we start it out a little bit with Crimes of the Future, which is, as I was alluding to, the new film from David Cronenberg, the director so singular in his vision of horror and the ways in which the body particularly can be contorted and messed with in ways to elicit horror, that he's had an entire term, Cronenberg, kind of named after the types of horror movies he's inspired. This one is not that different from what you're expecting when it comes to the Cronenberg type of vision for the world, one in which there's like a casual approach to different forms of body mutilation and reassignment and all sorts of crazy visions of a potential future where, in the case of this society, half the population doesn't feel pain anymore, so surgery is not this big undertaking. It's something that's done casually and on street corners and in back alleys and in all sorts of art shows, particularly the art shows held by Viggo Mortensen's character and Léa Seydoux's character as they perform for captive audiences in the art space, removing organs and all sorts of upsetting imagery. Amanda was talking about Crimes of the Future with us last week on our Weekend Must Watch, and she was saying how even though it has this reputation for being a very disturbing to watch movie, there's discussion of the people who walked out in Cannes. I don't know if it's necessarily like the most horrific vision or thing that I've seen. There's elements of Possessor, the son of David Cronenberg, Brandon Cronenberg, his film, that I found a little bit more difficult to watch, but there is something not so much like horrific in that I can't look at it, but unsettling in that it bothers me a little bit more to my core in terms of the types of horrors that David Cronenberg is displaying. There's this really interesting concept in the movie of the breakfaster, which is this breakfast chair that Viggo Mortensen sits in to digest his meals, that's like made of a human skeletal structure, and it moves around in order to massage his body so that he doesn't experience pain while eating, because his body has evolved past the point where he can comfortably digest human meals, and just sort of the way in which stuff like that hints at a much larger idea, much larger things going on, is really cool. You may have heard about that this is a script that he dusted off after like 20-something years or something, and it's pretty amazing how some of the stuff feels relevant. He did. His second film ever was also called Crimes of the Future, although I don't think it's quite exactly the same territory being covered. It's sort of like, this is sort of an expanded and altered vision, given that he now has, a little bit more capabilities in terms of his production. But it's a really cool thing. I think there's just so much to parse between the lines here, little moments that I wish we had maybe spent a little more time in, but that have stayed in my mind. So I understand why maybe a bunch of people are coming out of this movie with mixed opinions and maybe not super high on it. I'm not exactly saying that this was one of my favorites of the year, but there's a lot there and a lot of really interesting, thought-provoking elements. Plus, excellent performances. Kristen Stewart is really good in a pretty small role, but I was just blown away by Vigo. He does this thing where he is kind of like choking on some of his words that's more uncomfortable than any of the body horror stuff that they were doing. It was it made me feel like you know that feeling when you just have like too much phlegm in your throat and you can't breathe, right? Like I got
Disgusting.
that reciprocally from his performance.
Would you recommend it in theaters, or would you say people need to wait to get the virtual?
I mean, you know, I think perhaps it would help to kind of be like enveloped in that world. It moves at a slower pace that I could see maybe if you don't have the best attention or you're not sitting in the theater, that you might not lend yourself to fully experience it in that way. But, you know, it's not necessarily like the best of Cronenberg or the best in art house cinema. So I'm not saying, I don't think it's like a run out to the theaters and see it. If it sounds like it's up your alley, I think it's benefited by seeing it in the theater, but sure. But yeah, I'm sure most people would probably wait to catch this one on streaming.
Sounds good. How was Stewart in it?
I like Stewart a lot. Like I was sort of saying, it's a smaller performance, and I think some people might mistake what she's doing for being like bad acting because it's very mannered and because it's kind of big. But I really dig how quirky and nuanced it is. She has a particular vision of her character that I think builds the kind of unsettling idea of this world. Like the way that she interacts with other people is not, it's not of our present time and space, if that makes sense.
Final one. Is it better than Titan?
For me, I would say yeah, but like I was not the biggest Titan fan. I
did hate Titan, yeah.
I think Raw is better than both those movies, but
oh, easily, yeah. I'm opposite.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
All right. I'll be sure to catch it.
Devesh asked if I'd agree with Amanda's opinion that Possessor is better. I actually think that Crimes of the Future might be a little better. I like Possessor a lot. I don't know. There's a lot going on in Crimes of the Future.
We watch Possessor, bro. Nah, Possessor's good. I know I'm talking out of not seeing Crimes yet. Possessor's great, dude. Junior knew what he was doing there. He paid attention.
No disrespect to Brandon Cronenberg, who is apparently hard at work at a new movie, and I'm very excited for that one too. I also was listening to interviews with David, and his daughter is working on her first movie, so they got a whole family of unsettling filmmakers out there.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, let's talk about a movie that's currently playing in theaters, although it'll be on Netflix shortly. You and I both went to see it on the big screen, though. So what was your reaction to Hustle, the new movie starring Adam Sandler as a basketball scout who scours the globe for potential new talents when he comes across Bo, an exciting prospect from Spain, played by the NBA's own Juancho Hernan-Gomez?
That was pretty good. It's a solid little entry, feel-good type of sports movie where you don't need to know too much about the sports figures that are there. I also don't think that it overshadows a lot of the movie either, because a lot of these movies, you're just like, hey, look who it is. It's this NBA player. I thought they weave it in comfortably, so if you're a fan, you'll like a lot of the appearances. If you're not, it's all right. I don't think it was as big of a role in terms of like, this is going to be the big dramatic break that he's going to be coming back to. I know you and I were really excited for that, specifically because the director of this is a director that I really like. His previous feature was We the Animals, which premiered at Sundance, also on Netflix. So there you go. They got that nice little deal going on. I highly recommend that movie. That is a fantastic film. This it's solid. It's a nice little movie to watch, I guess, with the family that, like I said, is a very feel-good movie, has the elements of Rocky and every other sports movie that's out there in terms of its training montages and being the underdog. I really like Ben Foster in the movie, because really the perspective is that Adam Sandler is playing the guy for the 76ers who goes out to find talent. And as much as he wants to be on the bench, like literally as a coach, they're always pushing him to be that. And after some incidents happen, he continues to get pushed as the dude who has to travel all around the world eating every possible fast food. There's a certain point where, I always call out product placement. this was not product placement because every time this man eats something, it's just all of the other characters making fun of him for eating all of the junk food that he eats around the world. But damn, they went through every fast food possible around the globe for Adam Sandler. But really, the heart of the movie is that training that he's doing with this guy, because the whole purpose of him trying to get somebody drafted, I guess you want to say, into the team is so that he can finally stay at home in Philly, so that he can raise his own daughter.
Yeah, but, he's like hoping.
I was actually
like you were saying, he's hoping to like prove himself and also hoping to like help this guy, you know, achieve a nice life for his family. So there's all sorts of sort of like heartwarming stories carrying you through this one.
There's a lot of cameos in there too. I was telling you, I don't know if you caught your eyes in the credits, because the credits pull up and I'm like, I didn't see that person in there. I didn't see Tierra Whack. Where was she? All these different appearances that come out of nowhere.
The credits happen.
It's definitely one that on Netflix.
The credits happen and it's like top to bottom as himself, as herself, as himself. It's pretty crazy. I mean, like if you are a person who pays attention to NBA circles and, you know, like watches Inside the NBA or like knows who Anthony Edwards is, you're gonna have like a real fun time with just the little
Anthony
bits
Edwards killed it.
He's so good in this, like good enough that I want to see him in more things. Like put him in the White Man Can't Jump remake or something.
He was good for this role. You know, it's one of those things where, I don't know, outside of him having to play a basketball player, he was the only one who wasn't playing himself.
Yeah.
He was the one who was playing the antagonist for the main character, and I thought he did a really good job at like kind of pressuring him and being the one who wants to break him. But you were talking about like Inside the NBA, but the TNT boys, dude, the fact that everyone but Kenny, because I saw Kenny come up on screen, I'm like, all right, he's playing Kenny. I guess Kenny's really pushing the idea that he's got a lot of pull in the NBA. No, Kenny's playing a guy named Leon.
Yeah.
So when it cuts to the TNT guys,
Kenny's just not there. It would have been funny if Kenny showed up in a second role as himself.
That would have been great.
Yeah.
Because the movie does play it with a lot of that. It's like trying to be fully a drama, but like I said, it's very much. I don't know if you would you call it a family film? Like I know there's some lines and stuff, but
it's one of those.
It's
like,
a family film.
Yeah, it's one of those like PG-13, the whole family can see it kind of things where there's maybe a little bit of inappropriate stuff there, but it's mostly in terms of like banter and sports banter, and I think it is mostly overshadowed by just how like affable everybody in this story is. Like I think that's really my main takeaway here, is that Adam Sandler is just such a likable presence on screen, and that even if you remove all the sort of quirks of the comedic performances that you're used to, and even if you don't give him like, you know, a Barry Egan or a Howie type of character to play, like there's still just so much charm there that makes you root for him even through the ups and downs in this movie. He feels like such a mensch. He feels like such a warm-hearted person, and like a good hang. The repartee he has with different people in this movie, he's able to pull it off in this naturalistic, funny way. So even if it is mostly the tone of a drama, it has these pockets of comedy here and there through that banter, through some insults and stuff like that. I want to circle back to the thing you were mentioning with the training montages here, because I think this one has a pretty excellent training montage, and part of the reason that I think the training montage works is it's really extended. Like sometimes you'll get a training montage which is really just meant to bridge one part of the movie to the next, but there's this long sequence where you see him train and you see him struggle and you see him unable, and it almost feels like the montage is about to end with him being unable to reach his goals, and then there's a whole sequence of him getting better. And I think by extending it, it's like that much more believable. You're that much more invested in it. And even though it is a montage, because some of the things they're showcasing with the new types of basketball drills with the, you know, flashing lights and stuff like that, there's enough interesting stuff happening that it kept me with it. I'm definitely a little more predisposed to like a movie like this, not only because it has so many NBA references, basketball references, and cameos and stuff that I like. It's shot in Philly, and it really feels Philly, and I don't know.
It does.
So
they ain't show Max's though. They kept going in front of Geno's and Geno's and Pat's. They know what they're doing. They're trying to get that screen real estate every chance they get.
Yep. Yep, for
Y'all
sure.
gotta listen to Creed. Y'all gotta go to Max's.
Yeah, I would say John's Roast Spark, but that's not in any big movie.
That's another good one. It's another good one. Yes, good.
But yeah, I mean, look, for
John's Roast Pork ever been in a movie?
That's a good question. I know it was in Bourdain's show, but I don't know if it was ever in like a movie.
That's not a movie.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like a film. We need like a good times heist film that just so happens to be in John's Roast Pork.
We'll put it in one. Yeah, I mean, for those aspects, I kind of loved this, but I know it's like not that great. Like it's good. It's a solid sports movie.
I really liked it,
but I just like there's a lot of reasons I had to really like. I also root for Sandler. We know this. I really root for Sandler.
That's your boy, dude. He loves NBA players. He's not. I feel like every 2 years he's gonna be working on a movie with an NBA player in the film in some way.
I mean, look, shape
or form.
It's a good lane for him. He clearly knows and loves basketball. He seems to fit in this world. Like, there's just a small moment early in the film where his character gets frustrated and is like, "Can you tell me a place I can shoot hoop?" And he says it with such a naturalism that I cannot get away with, but he does because that's what he's been doing for 30 years on set. Josh in the live stream comments asked, would you say that Sandler is better here than Punch Drunk Love? I wouldn't say that. It's a solid performance for sure, but like I think Sandler was even nominated for a Golden Globe for that Punch Drunk Love performance, and I don't think anybody's
top tier. That's top tier Sandler.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think anybody's gonna like throw him in awards discussions for this one. It's solid though. I think it's sort of on the level of like, you know how Ben Affleck was in that movie, the sports coach movie a couple of years back. Where it's like a good performance, but nobody's like trying to throw him in awards discussions.
Yeah. I would agree.
All right, let's talk about another movie that's out in theaters. One that I think both of us did not enjoy as much as the
this should not be in theaters. This better not be in theaters.
Yeah, it almost feels like it doesn't belong in theaters. I mean, I saw it at home thanks to TIFF Digital last year. Let's talk a little bit about Dashcam, the new horror film from Rob Savage, who I think came onto most people's radar in 2020 because his horror film Host was one of the first films shot and released post-COVID lockdowns. I felt like it did some interesting things in terms of playing with its limited confines, like pushing up against the limits of what is allowable in like a Zoom format, and transitioning from a Zoom horror movie to a Dashcam horror movie sounds like it would be a good fit. Turns out it really was not. I absolutely hated this film for several reasons, the protagonist just being one of them. But Art, you got to see it more recently than me. Were you a little more positive on Dashcam than I am?
No, but I think it's better than Host. I don't like
Really?
Host. I don't get what people look. I we were in all the pandemic and we were all zooming, so then we saw someone make a Zoom movie and we're like, damn, that's really good. Rewatch Host, bro. There is so many mistakes that happen in that movie. A lot of people say, oh, it does things that Unfriended didn't do. It's not one single thing that the movie does that Unfriended didn't do. But it popped. Blumhouse gave him a 3-picture deal. This is the first of that 3-picture deal. Like you said, it played at TIFF. People were watching this in theaters. He made it for the theatrical experience. I don't understand that. This is a movie that's doing 2 things at the same time. You are following a girl named Annie, a woman named Annie, who has a YouTube show. The woman, the actress who plays her, is also named Annie, who has the same YouTube show. Where she sings while she's in her car, raps while she's in her car. She's supposed to freestyle anything that's on the chat. No. The entire movie, you're either paying attention to the chat on the right, or you're paying attention to what's happening on screen. I'm a big found footage fan. I think the found footage in this is it's all right. It's not the greatest. I don't think it's the worst I've seen. If you're not a fan of found footage, it is not going to convince you. But you got to do the SpongeBob eyes and split them because if you're watching this in theaters, if you're not watching this at home to be able to pause, you're going to have to decide which movie you're watching. I can guarantee you're not going to watch this twice. There is a whole storyline happening within the chat, and then a whole storyline happening within her going to go visit a friend because she's in the UK, if I'm not mistaken, trying to reunite with a buddy. And because she's such an annoying character, it ends up devolving into her stealing their car and then picking up a woman who may or may not be older than what she is, may or may not be possessed, and may or may not have these supernatural powers that start creating a bunch of crazy stuff. There is no dash cam in this movie.
That's the other thing. It's a webcam. It's not a dash cam. The title is lying to you.
It's not engaging, in my opinion. I think you get tired of the characters really quick,
Very
which,
quick.
give or take, sure. There was a movie a couple of years back called Tyrell, which was also made by a Spanish filmmaker who was
Sebastian
just like,
Silva.
so I heard about the racism in America. Um, Let me get Michael Cera to make a movie about what I think racism is in America. So this is Rob Savage is from the UK, and instead of making a movie about Brexit, he's like, what if I made a movie about the foolishness they got over there in America? So he decided to, like, I guess, tune in to a bunch of live streams to see the most belligerent stuff on chats. And I don't know, at one point he didn't realize that listening to those chats and watching them in real time is boring and lame. And he's like, but what if I made that into a movie and then forced y'all to pay a ticket to go see it? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's always that idea that you put an annoying character on screen, and I get it, they're supposed to be annoying, but then if that's all you're giving people, then what did you expect?
Right.
Especially if that's what you're reflecting on.
And it's like,
He's supposed to be saying that this is a movie where don't ignore the other side, that there should be a conversation between two people, and like he has no response to that because it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
He's not actually saying anything.
yeah, it's completely empty.
And it doesn't need to say anything. Yeah.
Right, like
But
that's the thing.
I don't get the setup.
I don't need a big message from my, found footage horror movies, but like if you're trying to say something, then you should actually say it well. And this movie does not, and it's beyond the like anti-vaxxer, MAGA hat, whatever bullshit that she does in the movie. She's just annoying. Like she's just antagonistic and frustrating and whiny and on a moment to moment basis, like it makes the movie harder to watch, less pleasant to watch than had somebody else been in this role. And like I get sometimes that can be the appeal of having a character like that, but there was no appeal here. It was just not fun. The found footage, as you mentioned, it's not the worst, but it's not convincing. I think most of the actual, scares or whatever are kind of done off screen and alluded to more than shown. And it's, it's clever for low budget filmmaking, but it's not that rewarding in a movie that is very light on rewarding aspects.
Yeah. Even a lot of the chat, it's meant to homage her show on YouTube. So it's like, it doesn't really apply to anything. And it does this thing where when something's happening on screen, the chat automatically reacts to it as soon as it happens. Mm-hmm. Like the moment that something appears on screen, someone's already sent a message about it. I'm like, yo, y'all didn't even take the time to sync this up in an appropriate manner. I will say this, Zach. I thought the ending was funny. The ending bit in the movie I actually thought was pretty hilarious. But if you are not a fan of found footage, this is not going to be for you. Yeah. If you're a fan of horror, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. Maybe. But other than that, I'd put it to the side. If you're a found footage fan, just check it out just to have it in the catalog. But I personally am not a big fan of Rob Savage so far. He's working with Blumhouse, which there's no better company to just give you the limited amount budget and allow you to do whatever you want, because that's the one thing you're going to get from them over at Blum. You're going to be able to make whatever movie you want. And he made this just like he made Host, and none of them have delivered up to me, but we'll see what he does with the other two that are on the horizon.
Yeah, we will hear more from him, I guess. All right, so that's what is available for theater-going audiences. What about the streamers? What about those people who just want to click on their smart TVs and watch a new movie? Well, there are some interesting new releases out. Let's start it over on Hulu with the release of Fire Island, directed by Andrew Ahn, interestingly. The guy who not so long ago made Driveways, which is one of my favorite little indie movies of the last couple of years. So Andrew Ahn, a very interesting director. Here he's teaming up with Joel Kim Booster, who wrote the script and stars in the movie. Interestingly, I don't know if you heard of this, that Joel Kim Booster originally developed this script for Quibi, which gets a shout out in the movie. So that was kind of funny. Does not feel much like a Quibi product in the end. This feels like a pretty standard romantic comedy with a pretty healthy level of subversion going on too. This is about a group of gay best friends who take a trip to New York's Fire Island, a hot spot for queer culture, and what happens to them on their trip is very similar to the goings-on of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, but reformatted for a new age. You have some very funny people in this film, including Bowen Yang and Margaret Cho and Matt Rogers, as well as Joel Kim Booster as well. Art, were you more charmed or uncharmed by Fire Island?
Oh no, I thought it was a funny movie. Hulu's been doing a really good job at taking a lot of their features that I think would have come out in theaters because they're like the sub Fox movies, and then releasing them at home. I would compare this and the one that just recently came out that takes place in high school. I think it was called Crushed. I really like that one as well. That does, a little bit more than just subverting and flipping the idea of like, okay, now it's a queer romance. Both of these movies are able to also flip the almost the acts and the structure of what these stories would be going for. So it's not just swapping it out to be a queer romance. It's also swapping out how the story would play out, which is what I appreciate.
Yeah.
Because now you're actually making something more original.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would have for this movie is that for a lot of the beginning of it, he's like explaining things. I don't think it needs that.
Doesn't
so
at
he'll
all.
like stop because he's narrating the movie, right? And he's like, oh, what this means is that. It's like, no, you don't need to explain it. There's a bunch of things, especially in the second half of the movie, where they'll just say something. They said something about a pill. I didn't know what that pill was. Guess how easy it is. If you're watching this on Hulu, you got an internet connection. Just go Google it. I think when you end up having to explain the stuff, it stops becoming less of a movie for its demographic and is trying to widen it, which I think lessens the experience of it, if that makes any sense, especially because of what the movie's supposed to be. But no, I thought the characters were, they had really nice banter between each other because you have these two groups that don't get along. One of them is like the really rich, posh lawyers and doctors that feel like they're at the top of the island, whereas our main group, they don't even know if they're going to be able to come to the island next week because they're not going to be able to have any housing. The place where they stay, it's going to be up for lease. So you have this dynamic that, again, is very much like Pride and Prejudice, where they don't know if they're in each other's leagues. But it's all the in-jokes, it's all the different personalities and how they clash. That I thought worked very well.
Yeah, no, I think I basically have the exact same reaction to it as you, is that it's all the bits of genuine subculture where you feel like it's lived in and not an experience that's being portrayed as much on screen that are really fun. Like I love the bit where they're all exchanging drugs and stuff like that. But I think what frustrated me a bit with Fire Island is I kind of felt the movie fighting against itself in different points, where it's trying to be this kind of like fun, subversive, biting satire, I guess, in some ways. And then on the other hand, it is trying to rigidly fit itself within a romantic comedy structure, so much in the way that like the narration keeps kind of filling in gaps that don't even like need to be filled in a way. Like it over explains itself so many times. And I wanted it to kind of chill out a little bit. I wanted it to have a little more faith in us as an audience and to just let us experience the characters, because I thought the characters were really interesting. And ultimately
those are the jokes that hit best.
Yeah, exactly.
When they don't explain it, where they're allowing you to connect the dots. Even in the third act, where you have animosity between the two groups, there's a third party that comes in, a dude who's kind of like been popping in and out of the movie for a little bit. And when you end up seeing what that person's all about, like, it's explained through their Instagram, and you kind of get to see the type of person. They don't need to break it down for you. Oh yeah, this is the type of individual that takes advantage in this way. You get to see what he's really all about, and they don't have to explain that bit as they do in the beginning of the movie. But I thought that it was able to deliver a lot of funny jokes. And like I said, there's always a moment in the movie, in these types of movies, where you like click the time and you're like, yep, there's 20 minutes left. And it was able to subvert that's what I like to see. It's not just swapping roles, but actually being able to have a different structure with it. And yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I think that Hulu's been able to pick up a lot of these. I know they also have Love Victor on the horizon, which I was able to catch season 3. Another one that they're ending. We're about to get to all these shows that we thought would be running for a lot more, and they're all wrapping up. But out of all of the networks out there, at least Hulu's been able to do and give a lot of their queer filmmakers, writers, actors the ability to make a story that doesn't seem to just fit in a box, like Netflix does a lot.
I think with both us, Hustle and Fire Island, there's a little bit of an interesting thing of these art directors that we like quite a bit trying to take like a step towards the mainstream. Do you feel like Jeremiah Zagar or Andrew Ahn maybe did had the more smooth transition?
It's a weird thing to compare. My only thing with Hustle is because I really like his very artsy style that he did for We the Animals,
Right.
and you see that competing to be in the mainstream. I didn't feel that in Fire Island because the surprise I was when you told me that he did Driveways. The director for Fire Island also did a couple episodes of Hentified.
Mm.
He did a couple episodes of Generation over on HBO Max, so he's already lived in that world.
Yeah.
This is him just doing a feature version of it. So I think Andrew Ahn did a better job. Jeremiah got to go back to his indie bag. I like what he did with Hustle, but I wanted to see more of his indie style, and that's why we were expecting like a crazy, like very award-worthy performance from Sandler,
Yeah.
and not more the mainstream. So I think Andrew does a better job with that.
Totally. Just going back to the cast for a sec, I thought Bowen Yang was really fun. I actually kind of liked Conrad Ricamora opposite of Joel Kim Booster. I don't know if I bought into them as a duo, but I bought into his awkwardness. Like I don't know if I as an introvert with social awkwardness, like I don't buy the portrayal of introversion in a lot of movies, but I bought his. I bought his inability to just be like freely expressive. So I actually kind of liked Conrad Ricamora in this movie.
Nice.
All right, let's talk about a movie that topped the charts on Netflix over the weekend. This one is Interceptor. I didn't get around to this one, but what did you think about it?
Garbo. So this is a movie on Netflix that is supposed to be a feature film, but gets the TV rating, the TVMA rating, which is, I guess how Netflix decides to differentiate between their movies. Yeah, to me, every time they do that, that's kind of telling you what they feel about the movie. I don't know if that's decided because of its quality or because of the production that they go through it, but nonetheless, the movie follows a military personnel who had left for a bit because of an incident that happened. There was an SA thing that happened with a superior. So now she's coming back, in particular during an event that's happening, a crisis, because as the movie opens up, it tells you it takes Russia 24 minutes to attack the United States if they send a missile. The United States has 12 minutes to intercept it, and we only got 2 locations. One of them's gone. We're down to the one, and that's where Elsa Pataki is. Zach, do you know who Elsa Pataki's married to?
I don't.
It's some schmuck named Chris Hemsworth.
He's got
not
a big
to spoil
deal with
this
Netflix.
movie for people, bro. A big deal that he will appear in absolutely everything, dude. They are pulling a Melissa McCarthy. What's her man's name?
Ben Falcone, America's premier director of bad comedies.
Bro, they do a scene like that where this man plays a Best Buy employee as he's like listening into like the big speech that the Russians are giving about the missiles that are going to come in. I'm like, what's going on here, man? Bless her soul. She's decent in the movie for what it is. The action isn't directed to its fullest capacity. The lines are as cringe-inducing as possible because the main villain is trying to showcase how America was an experiment that, should be no more. It has not handled its way. It's reverse-engineered casting because the bad guy is trying to call out like the Middle Eastern in the movie and is trying to call out her. But you have some of the most cringe-inducing lines in this film where you'll literally have a dude, spoilers if you don't want to get spoiled for the number one movie on Netflix right now, where a dude complains about him not being able to have jobs because all the minorities have taken them. And he points the gun at one of the dudes, and the other guy tells him, "You're not going to kill me. You're not a murderer." And the guy literally goes, "You're right, I'm not. I'm a patriot." Like, I don't need to see that stuff because it's not as profound as you think it is. It's not a great script. It has a message that it's trying to push, which I think there are a lot of better movies that you can see that. Go watch Watcher, which is out in theaters right now. It's not a military movie, but nonetheless, it's still covering that same perspective to a degree that she's going through in this film. I don't know. This is on the lower end of the action films that they got out there on Netflix, but that's all it really takes to be number one, especially when you have that backing from, one of the biggest stars out there who's going to get his own movie coming up for Netflix as well. But Interceptor, it's fine background watching.
Absolutely. All right. Moving on to another part of the streaming wars. This one maybe a little bit more meta than the other installments we talked about. South Park, the streaming wars, the latest event from the South Park people. I haven't caught up with this one. Is this a Paramount or a Comedy Central one?
That's the best joke to think best is that I believe they have all this stuff over on HBO, if I'm not mistaken, still. But this one's now on Paramount, so that's like the joke that's made outside of the special. Good. That they're just trying to be all over the place. This is on Paramount Plus, and if you have not been keeping up with any of the specials that they've been doing, because obviously they have episodes, but they've been really pushing like South Park, the COVID special, part 1, South Park, the vaccine special. They've been doing a lot of these. Out of the bunch, I'd say this is the better of them. It's not like the best. I'm not going to say like, hey, if you haven't been watching South Park, go check out on this. But it's really just making fun of the idea that there's so many streaming wars, but they're comparing it to the storyline of the town being drained of water, and thus they need to create streams of water, and a streaming war happens because they're all trying to get the water supply to go through them. The series has really become there's a lot of lore to it. Like, I don't know how much you followed of South Park with Integrity Farms. Like the kids will always hate each other. The kids will always have their same dynamics. But there's been a storyline with the farms and the plants that they have been doing and how that continues to grow.
Yeah.
I feel like if you don't know a little bit of that, you're going to fall behind, not just in the plot, but like in a lot of the jokes. A lot of the jokes hit only if you know previous installments. So funny little dig, I guess, at the streaming wars, but nothing to come back in on. But it was like one of the biggest releases that they had over on Paramount Plus, because if you're paying for Paramount Plus, you're either playing for these little things like that or Halo, which I had to watch over the weekend. Because Paramount has not been pushing too much out there.
Nah, I mean, they're doing okay at the box office with stuff like Top Gun and The Lost City.
No, bro, they're...
Yeah, but if it's all about streaming, then I don't know. I mean, those movies will eventually make their way to streaming, so hopefully that does something for Paramount Plus. But yeah, I don't know. Circling back to South Park, it's a show that I kept up with for a long while, but there's just so much of it now. I think for I don't know, people in our age range who kind of grew up alongside it, like it's just hard to develop like a 20-year relationship with a show.
Yeah. Are you a bigger South Park or Simpsons fan? Like if you had to tune into one.
Growing up, South Park, but I think as I grew older, I leaned more towards Simpsons. Because like when you're young, South Park is so exciting and naughty and like feels like you shouldn't be watching it. But I think the jokes are sharper on The Simpsons.
Yeah. I think my worry with South Park is like it's too late. Like we're at an era where you got to be so quick with this. Like it's commenting on the streaming wars as if in 2019 we weren't all prepping for all the new ones that were coming up. 2020, 21, 22. Like this would have really hit, I think, in the middle of the pandemic, like in 2020 or early 2021. But I was like, yeah, we've all kind of made these jokes already. But yeah, we'll see. It's never gonna end, bro.
Yeah, I mean, for a while, that was just South Park's thing, though. They were like, because they could turn around episodes so quickly, they were the first to comment on a new thing.
That's what I'm saying,
But in the age of Twitter and TikTok, it's not so impressive, I guess.
It's not happening.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on from streaming wars and into some TV shows, because there are a few really interesting shows on right now. This is the part of the Weekend Must Watch where I do my weekly plea to get Art to catch up with Barry, because season 3 is so good.
We've been doing this for seven weeks.
Yeah, I'm going to do it for one more, because there's a finale coming up, and Bill Hader has promised it's going to be extremely intense, that there's not a lot of jokes.
Is it good?
Man, so the thing that I wanted to say,
you like it?
The thing that I wanted to say is that the run they're on right now, the episode 5, 6, 7 run that they just went on is like one of the all-time runs for a show like this. It is really, really challenging, interesting, dark, upsetting, but riveting material. They are pushing the limits of these characters and pushing them to really, really dark places that it's just bleak, man. It's bleaker than most shows that
That's what I
I've
like with
ever
Barry.
seen. And I love it about Barry is that they're willing, like they're unwilling to simply let some of these things go. Like it's a show that seems to really believe in punishment for its characters, and it makes me very concerned about what's going to happen next week, man. I thought episodes 5 and 6 were both really brilliant in terms of the way they balance just the stakes of the show with some entertainment, and there's some funny stuff going on. But episode 7 is just top tier filmmaking, an episode directed by Bill Hader that makes me so excited for the inevitable movie that he's going to do after this. It's just tense, man. There's so many
on Barry or like a movie?
no, like the movie that he will eventually do, because like this guy is a filmmaker.
Oh, okay.
There are long sequences
I agree
here
with you there.
of silence where you just sit with the characters and worry, because there's an inevitability to a lot of the things coming on this show. If you have the time, like you're gonna want to watch whatever's coming next. It feels like everything's coming to a head. And just pay attention also to how many sequences are done in these subtle one takes, right? Like a lot of one shots call themselves out because they glide along for like hundreds of feet, or they have things moving in and out of frame. They do these things where it's a turn and a pull in, but the entire scene is done in one shot, and it communicates it so well. It's such a good show.
I should watch the show.
Yeah,
Damn.
you should probably watch Barry. It's gonna come up a lot on Intercut this year. I guarantee that.
3 compared to 2 and 1.
It's so hard for me to say while I'm in the middle of it. Like I feel like I'm trying to come at this without a bias, because I feel so involved in 3, and I remember that like pretty much everybody's reaction to season 1 was that this is a perfect season of television that like you can't touch. But I think season 3 is better than that. So I don't know what to do with that feeling. I don't know what to do with that.
And you don't
feeling.
have the finale yet.
And I don't have the finale yet. Yeah. Plus, we know it's coming back for season 4. So I don't know. They got to keep the ball rolling somehow. I'm very curious.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Barry, I'll put it on my radar.
Another show to keep on your radar, The Boys, is back. Season 3. They debuted their first 3 episodes of season 3 on Amazon. I caught the first 2. I think you said you caught the first 3 again, now that the VFX are all finished and everything.
Yeah, crazy seeing the work in progresses. But nothing will ever beat, like we were saying last week, Ted Lasso. But, oh no, it looks a lot better, a lot cleaned up. You're a fan of The Boys, right? Out of all the superhero stuff that we get, you like the perspective that The Boys brings? Or
I like the kind of like subversive nature of the violence on the show, and the way that it feels like a deconstruction of the other superhero properties out there, right? Like it feels very pointedly anti-Marvel MCU type of stuff in a way that I think is refreshing, given how much superhero stuff dominates our culture. I really enjoyed the first season. I thought the second season was also very good. And I'm finding myself a little bit tired with season 3 through 2 episodes.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what that is, because it still kind of feels like the same show. But they do a recap, like a previously on The Boys, before the 3rd season, which is just an extended montage of all the different people who've gone splat on this show. And I gotta be honest, I think that turned me off from it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I've never been a big fan of those types of previously ons where
Yeah.
it's just like, do you remember this scene? Do you remember this scene? I was like, no, I don't remember this scene. It's like they show you a scene and that's supposed to trigger you the entire storyline leading up to that.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, people go blah. I kind of see what you're saying with it. I guess it could be because we're on the 3rd season and you're expecting, are they going to continue to subvert things? I think 3 is where it starts doing that. I think in episode 3, you start really seeing the characters come into what this next chapter is going to be, because after the first 2 seasons, particularly the finale from the last one, you had the whole, without getting into too much spoilers, a character who was a hero who ended up being the complete opposite of a hero.
Right.
And thus Homelander, who may also not be a hero, has to deal with all those repercussions. And they're almost kind of like using him because they have all of this stuff on him to blackmail him. And in season 3, or in episode 3, is where he starts to realize that he doesn't have to be beholden by those things. And that's why I think The Boys continues to be on the radar. Out of everything that Amazon's released and the millions of dollars they spent, man, I looked through the screeners that they sent us, and all of them go, nobody cares, bro. The Undone came out. I love this show. It is irrelevant to the algorithm
no one's
over
talking
there.
about
The
it.
only thing that has survived is Invincible in this.
Yeah.
And the reason for this show is because it finds a great way to always adapt to the moment. I know that they've been calling out Snyder since the beginning, and I don't know if you saw the real funny tweet where Snyder actually took the release, whatever the director is in the show, they had to release his cut thing, and he retweeted it. And he was just like, I'm so happy for him. Love the show. Glad he got his cut. And it's like they're able to have that communication in real time with the audience. You know, they've already adapted to not just having the superheroes be a part of like a Hollywood franchise. They go out, they fight for the military, then they come back and they make their movie. They have VOT Plus already. You know, they're quick to update with what's going on in the real world.
Yeah, pretty
what
funny.
Episode 3 does, Zach.
Pretty funny that they got their Charlize Theron cameo in time for the MCU to have a Charlize Theron cameo.
How do you write that? That's what I'm talking about. You know, it's like there's a meta-ness to the best of their jokes that you can't get anywhere else. And you get it through money. I think they use their budget to the best of their ability, and I think the performance from, I don't know why I'm blinking on the
Starr?
actor's name. I hope he doesn't come and get me. I think he's been great since season 1.
Yeah, Anthony Starr's
what he's doing in
incredible
3. What he's doing in 3. I know it's a superhero show. I know it's like half comedy. I know it's. I mean, you saw what was the first thing with someone going into somebody's urethra?
Yeah,
it's crazy stuff that's always
Thanos
happening
up the ass thing, but even worse.
Literally. Anthony Starr's a really good actor, dude.
Yeah.
And there's stuff that he's doing in 3 that doesn't just play to his character. This is what I'm talking about when you're trying to connect it to like real world politics and the influence that people can have. I think you're going to really like the way that they're pushing it. He gives this speech where he flips what an iconic person in history has said and he uses it to his own. I'm very much looking forward to seeing where they take the storyline. I've read the books, the comics that it's based off of, and there's just crazy stuff that they could go. It's insane to actually think that the show's tamed it back. But once you're this big, I mean, I never expected to see a superhero show where someone goes into someone else's penis. So we're here already. We'll see what they have next. But for the most part, if you've been a fan with The Boys, it continues to deliver. If you're going to get the fatigue of superheroes, that's inevitable. But I think that they're going to keep a consistent storyline with these characters to keep you engaged in.
Yeah. There's a lot on this show that makes it very fun to watch. I think Anthony Starr's performance is one of the things that actually makes this a very good show.
Creepy, bro.
And I'm curious to see where they're going to go, because I do think sometimes you need to see the direction of a season before like settling on whether or not they've like lost their mojo or whatever it is. But I'm still curious what's coming on The Boys, because I have enjoyed so much of what they've done so far. I do think at some point, if they're going
Too many characters?
There's a lot of characters, and also like
it's a lot.
There's also this thing of like, it's supposed to be this incredibly brutal show where anybody can die at any moment, but it's never going to be Carl Urban, Jack Quaid, Aaron Moriarty, or Anthony Starr. Or they're not going to die. But everybody else could die at any moment. Anyway.
I feel you, bro. Carl Urban, bless his soul. I love him, and he needs Judge. They need to give him Dredd, the sequel to that already. I don't understand why they haven't given it to him. Yeah. But bless his soul. It's just his whole performance is this. To the camera. Yeah. He always just is that to the camera. It's like when you're looking at somebody knock on your door, they got that fish line, the fish lens. I like him. I like what he's doing in the show, but I feel it's become repetitive because you just don't feel those stakes anymore. Yeah. And with the involvements that they have on this season with a particular serum, a particular pill, it almost feels like a plot device so that they can keep their characters who may not have superpowers in the show.
Right.
We'll see, though. It's still delivering at the same that I think at least season 2 was. So
absolutely,
I think it's going to be Prime's most consistent thing.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about HBO Max and one of their most consistent things so far, at least up until now, has been Hacks, the Lucia Aniello, Paul Downs, Jen Statsky created show with Gene Smart and Hannah Einbender, a couple of our favorite people on TV right now. Season 2 just wrapped up its 8-episode run. Interestingly, 2 episodes shorter than, I believe, the first season, which was 10. And, you know, I got to say, like, when we were talking about the best shows of last year, I left Hacks either off my list or like towards the bottom of my list. And part of why I did is I said, like, I think this is a show that's really like finding its feet, and it's going to really start running in its second season when they settle into the groove and they let you play with the different dynamics and the different characters. And by like episode 4 or 5, I really felt that happening with this season of Hacks, getting the crew on the bus, on the road, dealing with the new circumstances of Deborah's career and trying to balance that. It felt like a really cool place to be, one that I was ready to hang out with for a while. And which makes me that much more surprised at how quickly they kind of unraveled that and seemingly are like ready to end the show. I mean, the way that episode 8 ended, it doesn't feel like a season finale. It feels like a series finale to me. I know you said you have like a little bit to go on that last episode, but like even before we get there, there's a little bit of like tying up loose ends that feels odd given how successful this show has been with winning Emmys and how much buzz it seemed to generate online.
It doesn't matter anymore. Isn't that scary?
Yeah.
Like, it does not matter. Every streaming service has come out. Netflix did that whole thing that we were partly discussing last week where they had Ted Sarandos come out and be like, remember when I said that we were family? Psych, we are not family. And no more vanity projects unless you're Ryan Reynolds. The Irishman won awards. And is in their top 10 most viewed things. Like, it has both.
Yeah.
The prestige, the honor, and the numbers. And they don't care. Hacks has a consistent amount of people, I want to say, watching it. It won the awards. It continues to bring in the quality. And they've decided to drop 2 a week to get it done as fast as possible. When they were doing that for Made for Love, I was like, it seems a little weird. When they were doing it for Hacks, I was like, this is very weird. And as you're saying, even if they continue for a 3rd season to almost kind of like, and you could speak to this even more, make the writers always end a season just in case, in a definitive way, you know, just in case you don't come back, is also really weird. You're then altering the way that stuff is written, even though the entirety of the season leading up to that, especially in the last 2 episodes, you have characters ready to start their new chapter, not ready to wrap it up. So I thought season 2 is just as funny as season 1.
Yeah.
And that's because they got cameos to come in. Like, they even comment on the cameos. They comment on the idea of getting supporting roles.
Yo, how about
every single one, dude?
How about our girl Harriet Sansom Harris showing up for an episode and being absolutely hilarious? Like, there's
fantastic.
This is a show that has so much room to do stuff like that, and yet they limit it to this 8-episode run that they burn off in 4 weeks. Like, it feels like just as we're starting to get comfortable with a show like this, it's gone. And it's like you're saying, I feel like that's disrespectful to a show that's as good as this. Like, man, like
and what the storyline's about too.
Give me 10 episodes, like, give me 13 or something. We don't need to go back to 22, but 8 for a half hour like this just feels like nothing.
Even if it's 8, you can't be a month, bro. It's all done in a month. Yeah. I don't know. That's ridiculous to me. I don't know if it's them trying to fit it all in at once. If it's just, it really just feels like they're trying to wrap up these shows as fast as possible to move on to this next thing. If you're listening to every streaming service and the people who run that stuff, it very much seems like they're ready to cut costs, to make things as, small as possible. And they're just not going to want to pay the money for it. But it sucks because I think, again, it's just as good as 1. You were mentioning Harriet, what's her name? Lady Bird's mom, bro. She killed it.
Laurie Metcalf, so funny.
For a couple episodes,
and she's a character who should have been there like for an entire season. And they're like, all right, get her in, get her out.
2 eps, 1 ep. Like, you're not getting cameos for that much longer. Susie was in this last one. Susie Essman from Curb Your Enthusiasm. She came in to be the director. Kills it. I don't know. I want to see the show continue. I hope they keep it up. But it sucks that they're dwindling down the
Yeah.
episodes to this degree. And you may be listening to this now going like, oh, that kind of stinks. Once it hits your show, you ain't gonna be happy that this is a thing. So we're
Yeah.
warning you now. It's a trickle down thing. They're doing it right now for these, and then the next thing you know, your favorite show's gonna be
Yeah.
hit the same way. So
And like hopefully
I don't know, man.
hopefully it comes back for a third season. There hasn't been a confirmation, but just the lack of assuredness has made the writers compromise what the show is in a way that frustrated me, right? Like if the show
it
is as
sucks.
good as this, give it some runway. I don't know. I don't get it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Still got the hyphen on IMDb, Zach. So let's hope. Let's pray.
All right, let's talk
But it's good.
a
Catch it.
little bit about Pistol on FX, the Sex Pistols show, directed by Danny Boyle. I haven't had a chance to catch it, but Art, I think you caught some. What did you think about this latest FX on
Yeah.
Hulu installment?
Don't worry, Zach. Nobody else has caught it either. It's so difficult to search the show up. Like I keep forgetting it's Pistol, not Pistols.
Right, it's a little weird. Like you'd think just throw the extra S on there.
I don't get it. Yeah, it's about the Sex Pistols and how they started from their roots. It does a decent job at getting through a lot of the main characters and the band members and like their upbringing, a lot of the turmoil that they may have gone with, a lot of the, baby holding that they may have gone with, how they're all just completely different people who come to do this like very punk rock band, brought to you by FX Hulu on Disney Plus for some people. And I know that that's been probably one of the biggest things that people have against it, because for a show about a punk rock band that's trying to go against like the hierarchy and the systems that be, it very much plays within those systems that be. Look, I am fully aware that if Danny Boyle's making a thing, if it's going to be a series, where else is he going to pitch it? It's going to have to be on some streaming service. So it's almost this thing where it's like, people are upset that it's on a streaming service, but like, would Netflix have made it okay? Would it not be playing by the exact same rules? It's got to be hosted somewhere. So judging it as a show in and of itself, I think it's got that flair that Danny Boyle does a great job with in his direction and following the characters. There's zany moments when they're trying to create the songs, the interactions between them. They're very big personalities. They have a lot of moments where they'll they'll say lines that are like can be completely taken out of context. This is that show where like someone will be upset. It's like, how dare you leave me on my fake wedding? You were supposed to marry me. The one character that really stood out to me, dude, I don't know if you could pull it up here. Coach, Friday Night Lights, Coach, bro. He's got a daughter. Kyle Chandler's daughter,
Wait, really?
Sydney Chandler,
Oh.
is in this show. And it took me forever. I was like, why? There's something about this. Why does she look? I searched it up. I would have never connected. Yeah, right there. That's his daughter.
Damn.
She's in the business now,
All right.
I guess. You could search up some things about how people in the industry think about her. Take it as you will. But she plays one of the main characters who, along with Toby Wallace's character, who I really like. He's been in a couple of shows that have been canceled, like The Society, but he's able to have this very like. He does a really good job at showcasing trauma behind his eyes. And as long as you if you have a character like that, you need casting, go for Toby Wallace. But I think it's their dynamic that really runs the show, where they're supposed to be in a relationship but not be in a relationship. I still have 2 episodes left, so it's more of a preview that I'm talking about than a review. But I don't know if it's gonna deliver for the punks out there.
Mm-hmm.
But as a new Danny Boyle project, is decent, I guess. It lets you know a little bit about the band. But not so much that I think it encompasses, the be-all on them. So, I don't know. I'm curious to know your thoughts, because they're not a band that I'm as attuned with,
Right.
but I can only see it as a show, and as a show, it's fine.
Cool. Yeah, I'm still kind of curious about it, especially like you mentioned Danny Boyle. So definitely check that one out eventually. But that is mostly what you and I have been watching and what's new. So let us know in the live stream comments or the regular comments, or even just by shooting us an email, intercutpod@gmail.com. You can also hit us up on social. Let us know what you've been watching in the past week. A lot of you do that on our weekly polls over on Instagram, so we really appreciate the answers. A lot of people watching Crimes of the Future, a lot of people watching Bob's Burgers, a lot of people watching Fire Island this week as well. And yeah, we got some responses for Barry, so thankfully some of the inner cuties are up on the new season of Barry too. We would like to thank the Intercutie Plus members, those wonderful patrons who support the show over on patreon.com/intercutpod. They are Ewan, Julieta, Garrett, Tim, Elizabeth, Josh, and Ashley. Our Academy level members are Tushar, Cademan, Connor, Pete, and Sean. And of course, a big thanks to the producer level patron known only as Awkward. Thanks again for all the support, and a reminder that you too can become a member at patreon.com/intercutpod, where you can sign up for patron benefits like early access to Intercut episode outlines, access to private channels on the Intercut Discord, and an invitation to our monthly patron Google meetings. Art, we're going to do a debrief after we've all seen Jurassic World next week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Come next week. It's the biggest movie of June, I guess. I know it's already released in other places too. So we have a lot of viewers that are in Mexico, Brazil. I believe some places over in Europe already got it. For whatever reason, we're the last ones. They're really taking the world part seriously. So it's out everywhere else but here. I don't. We'll see. It'll be half. It'll be like a quarter Jurassic World talk because I highly doubt we're that big on it.
You don't want to get deep into the lore?
Sixth,
I think.
It's the sixth. I'm cutting up everything. It does not matter, bro. It does not. I've through the trailers, I've practically seen the whole movie because we're cutting up the trailers. Who cares? Who cares? Zach, I'm gonna tell you right now. Watch every single Jurassic World movie. You will find a moment where the T-Rex comes in and saves the day. Why? Because you can't beat the original.
Exactly. I mean, if you can't beat Spielberg, might as well just try to copy him. There's a lot of directors who've been establishing successful careers on that path. Shout out J.J. Abrams. I don't know, man. I have yet to really enjoy a Jurassic installment since the first one. So I'm going to this next one with a lot of dread. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, bro! They don't make them like they used to, dude.
And it still looks better than any of the new ones too, with the in terms of the effects.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Y'all should go check out Jurassic Park. Pick of the week.
All right, let's get to the new to see, where we talk about what is new in theaters, on streaming, on demand, all the good places. Did want to give a quick shout out to The Northman, which popped up on Peacock. One of our favorite movies of the year is now streaming on the NBC Universal platform, which is slowly building up a kind of nice catalog with these Universal movies. Some of them not so good, like Firestarter. Some of them we like a little bit more, like Ambulance. But The Northman, definitely the best of their recent additions. So if you haven't had a chance to catch up with that one, would highly suggest it. Tomorrow, June 7th, Dinner in America, which we've talked about plenty of times on Intercut. Amanda has talked about many times on Intercut, is finally available on digital and VOD in America. About time on that one, from Sundance 2020. That's a pre-pandemic Sundance movie.
That's crazy.
June 8th. We get Hustle on Netflix, the movie with Adam Sandler, Queen Latifah, Ben Foster, Robert Duvall, and many NBA players. Robert Duvall just like a flash of a cameo there.
Really quick, but hey, it's because you got my boy Ben Foster. He had to take the reins there. Zach, I got one for you. They've been competing off the court. LeBron James, Steph Curry. Who do you got? They've been producing like crazy, dude.
They have. I'm not in the holy moly audience, unlike you, but I think I'd have to.
Yeah, that's right.
I'd have to give.
I was like, I don't know which side I am, and then you just reminded me. Yeah, I guess I'm on Team Steph Curry.
I think I'm Team LeBron James, Space Jam aside, because Hustle's pretty good. I like his stuff on HBO.
Zachary.
Yeah.
If Steph wins this one, do you know how many titles he'll have?
Is that equal to LeBron if he wins this one?
I
think so.
No, I think he would. Would it be equal?
I think it's
all I know is he's approaching the real GOAT, bro.
Yeah.
Now, the GOAT's never going to get replaced for me, obviously, but there's some discussions that need to be had if he wins his next chip, dude.
It's
some discussions that need to be had, bro.
It was a good game last night.
Talking about
I don't know if you were watching.
It
was a real good game.
He changed the game.
He absolutely changed the shape of the game. His brother, his brother Seth, has a role in Hustle. who is also
So the Currys are everywhere.
his brother-in-law's father-in-law is also the coach of the. It's complicated. The NBA is very incestual. I've realized. But anyway, there's a lot of really fun cameos in Hustle, and I like the movie a lot. Art liked the movie a lot. It's on Netflix soon. Also on streaming soon on June 8th, Miss Marvel, the latest Marvel TV show. This one about Kamala Khan and her superpowers, which I believe have been altered from their comic book form. Technically, we have like a review embargo, but not a social embargo on this, so we can have like our tweet length thoughts on Miss Marvel. What are your like tweet length thoughts on the upcoming Disney Plus show?
It's really cute.
Yeah.
I think you know it's you're not going to please everybody now with the Marvel machine being as big as it is. Some people want everything to connect to everything. Other people want it to be, I don't know, something new. This is exactly what it needs to be on Disney Plus, which is what I expected from the other shows. It feels like a Disney Channel series that ties into the Marvel universe.
I was going to say,
and I really like the art style. That's the part that stands out to me the most. I don't know if you were able to catch any of the episodes.
I caught
but
the
they do a
first
really
two.
Cool thing. Yeah, so
yeah. I was gonna say it feels like a good CW show. Like I know CW is normally like used as a bad example, but it feels like a good version of that kind of aesthetic and style, and it's a little bit scrappier and a little bit more teen driven, but like it's fun. It's like I don't know. It doesn't take itself quite as seriously as some of the Marvel shows have so far, and I think I forget the actress's name. Iman Vellani is it that is in the main role, but she's quite charming as well. So I'm gonna stick with it.
They really embrace this idea of the new generation in the world, in the cinematic world.
Yeah.
Loving and looking up to all of the previous heroes. I don't think they've taken it far enough yet. Like Hawkeye already did that. Like, oh, I look up to Hawkeye, and I'm gonna be with Hawkeye, and she looks up to her favorite superheroes. She looks up to Captain Marvel, obviously the most. I don't know. We're missing that one story that really brings it in. I'm not saying that The Incredibles. I mean, no one's ever been able to match that, right? But there's got to be another story because it really just feels like the teens in our world just look up just like you guys do at home. And
that's a good point.
Could be a little bit more to it.
It's a good point. Like I do think one of the things that sometimes is frustrating with the Marvel Cinematic Universe is how cloistered off the superheroes feel a lot of ways. Like they
just marketing for the next thing.
Like they don't even interact with non-superheroed human beings so often on these movies and shows. One of my favorite small moments in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is when they're sitting down at the restaurant early in the movie and somebody's trying to like get a picture with them, because that's what it would be like. They're big celebrities in public, but like
consistently.
But this show actually does have some hinting at that whole idea that like they're not just superheroes, they are the biggest parts of culture. They are Vought cinematic universe.
Literally, yeah, exactly.
So I think that's a cool element for Miss Marvel as well.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's there.
On June 8th, 9th, 8th, the Tribeca Film Festival kicks off as well.
This week, damn.
Yeah, which we annually attend. There's a lot of films that we're excited to watch. A lot of films that we've already seen, too, that are playing the festival. So if you have the chance to watch some in the online version of the festival, make sure to do that, because we will be back on Intercut discussing what we're watching over the next 2 weeks, probably. But you can see Marte Deum, a love song, some films that we talked about back during Sundance, To the End, another one. Was there anything...
They're doing in-person, and they're doing virtual.
Yeah.
Is there are exclusives for in-person, I take it?
I believe so.
Or is everything?
I believe the headliners are exclusive in person.
All right, because I saw Black Phone there, and I'm like...
Yeah. I don't think they're doing that.
I don't think that one's going to be there, but I'd have to look through it. I know that we both got approved. Haven't signed that up yet, but we will be doing some Tribeca coverage as the next festival to cover here on Intercut.
Absolutely. Then on June 9th, going to another film festival. Actually, we're not going to it, but some people will be. The Sundance Film Festival London kicks off on June 9th through June 12th. Features many of the films that we talked about, including Good Luck to You, Leo Grande, Brian and Charles, Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul, Resurrection, Sharp Stick, Watcher, We Met in Virtual Reality. Like, these are really, really good movies from Sundance. that will be playing all weekend long in London. I know we have a lot of listeners out in the UK. They better be taking in some of this stuff.
Yeah, I've heard great things about that festival. So if you have not been, I'd say go check it out. Let us know. But Leo Grande is also coming out. I'm trying to pull it up right here because I know 17th. I had it. Yeah,
real
bro,
soon.
On Hulu. So,
yeah.
Dang. New world.
Yeah, it's not the Sundance that you started going to where you'd watch movies and maybe they'd be out in a year and a half. These movies are getting flipped.
Compared to January, it's been a couple months, but
yeah.
I like the ability to have these movies available to everyone.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just Good Luck to You, Leo Grande. Cha Cha Real Smooth is out on the 17th too, and that's also at Tribeca.
On Apple. I know. It's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Also on June 9th, Queer as Folk returns for 8 episodes on Peacock. This is a reboot of sorts of the famous show from the 90s or early 2000s, I think it was. I was never a Queer as Folk watcher, but I know a lot of people are really, really fond of that show, and it'll be interesting to see what it does in this new version. I think Ryan O'Connell is that guy from that Netflix 15-minute show, right? That was kind of interesting. Forgetting the name of.
Oh, was it special?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's one of the stars of the new Queer as Folk also, so that's cool to see him get that bump up. On June 10th, my birthday, Jurassic World Dominion couldn't have asked for anything better. Oh, what else but watching nostalgia shoved down my throat for 2+ hours.
Open
How
wide,
long
Zach.
is this?
The content is here.
147 minutes long. Wow. It's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Why? Jurassic Park in its last 20 minutes. I'm at the last 20 minutes of Jurassic Park and the kitchen scene hasn't happened. I'm like, the kitchen scene hasn't happened yet? Last 20 minutes of Jurassic Park are better than the entire trilogy for the world combined. I don't understand why it's got to be that long, but pushing 2.5 on that, dude.
Yeah, man.
You got your tickets?
Yeah.
You're watching in Dolby.
I got my
No need to see this in IMAX.
Yeah, I got my A-list Dolby for June 9th, so I don't know, man. Hopefully Colin Trevorrow finds something to do here. The movie that I'm actually looking forward to seeing in theaters this weekend is Mad God. This one is going to be
on Shudder.
On Shudder a week after, but if you have the chance to see it in theaters, maybe take that chance to see it in theaters.
I'm so excited for this one, dude. I've been waiting for this one for so long.
Shout out to Connor, who gave this one a shout out on our Intercut Awards. He's been hyping this one for us for a while. Phil Tippett, the animation master, doing some stop motion craziness here. I'm just hyped for this one. It looks really cool. It looks like unlike anything I've ever seen.
I just connected Phil Tippett because I was looking at all the stuff for Jurassic Park yesterday.
Right.
The guy who worked on Jurassic Park.
Yep.
Nah, man, I am. Yeah, that's the one right there.
Speaking of Shudder, they add the horror film Offseason on June 10th. We were kind of mixed on that one, but it's going to be available.
It's fine.
Peaky Blinders season 6 hits Netflix. Did you know this show was still happening?
I was going to ask you.
I
didn't know it was still happening.
I thought it was done like years
a 2-year
ago.
hiatus.
Yeah.
I thought it was done. I thought it wrapped with Boardwalk Empire. No, we got season 6 over here. And
somebody has to feed Cillian Murphy. They're doing a movie?
Yeah. A whole film. So this is the end, but not the end is how they're pitching it.
Okay.
I want to catch up on it. Peaky Blinders and Boardwalk have been those 2 shows that I want to catch up on once I finish the other 476 shows.
That's one of those shows, like, 1 out of every 100 people you talk to will be like, what show's really good? It's Peaky Blinders. Some people really like Peaky Blinders.
The Peaky Blinders fans, they don't mess around. Yeah, they like that show.
On June 10th, we're also getting Tahara in theaters. This is a film starring Rachel Sennett and Madeline Gray DeFries that we saw last year or 2 years ago. Yeah, pretty interesting little indie.
I liked it.
Yeah. And then I also wanted to shout out on June 12th a new show coming to AMC and AMC Plus called Dark Winds. It's a pretty cool looking show about a couple of Navajo police officers in the 1970s as they investigate a double murder case. They have some pretty ominous ads playing on AMC. that make me pretty curious about this one. But also, Rainn Wilson is in this show, surprisingly, randomly.
Interesting. Okay.
So yeah,
All right.
curious about this
Keep it
one.
on my radar.
But let's get to the picks of the week. Art, what are you planning to see this week?
Let me boot this up right here. I got a couple stuff going down through streaming. For Hulu, if you got Hulu, Try Harder, a documentary that we've enjoyed for a little bit, is out to stream on Hulu. We kind of had our trifecta, our trio of kids going through college type stuff to go see, and I thought that one was pretty solid. Martha, Marcy May, Marlene, I know is a movie that you really like, and I'll be showing it to Alina this week because she's never seen it.
So good.
And we were laughing because in watching and binging all the WandaVision stuff, she said, I went from being a woman in independent films who would go crazy to being in big blockbusters as the woman who goes crazy. So Martha, Marcy May, Marlene over on Hulu. Showtime picked up a movie called Vox Lux that came out a couple years ago. This is a movie that's always stuck with me, and I'm recommending it with a warning, especially recently. If you have not caught this one, do so. I think it's a very interesting movie that feels like almost unfinished or like unpieced together, but I think it'll stick with you. So Vox Lux, if you have Showtime, go check that out. Have you seen what Peacock and Showtime, or Paramount and Showtime, are doing since they're both owned by Viacom?
I haven't.
They're putting Yellowbirds on Paramount.
Yellow Jackets?
And they're going to be Yellow Jackets, thank you, sorry. They're going to be putting it on Paramount on a weekly basis, and they already started. One, they're funny because they're doing it because there's one gay character, so it's Pride Month. But also because it's Viacom, and they're like, damn, we should probably share shows.
Right.
And I'm just like, why not just combine them? Just combine them. Yeah. You own both of these things. I don't get it. So if you don't have Showtime, it might come out on Paramount later on, is pretty much what I'm trying to say. Tahara in theaters, I'd say, would be my number one pick. We got the Dolby tickets for Jurassic, but we'll see. But if you are a big fan of the trailer for Black Phone, there's going to be an early screening. I like letting people know about these early screenings on 6/15, so June 15th. It's a Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. It's the AMC Investor Connect screening. You don't need to invest or connect. I think you could just go get it, and it is under your AMC A-list if you have it, so a little heads up for the people there. But to wrap it up, Apple TV, Physical, Season 2. I don't know if you've seen Physical, Season 1, Zach, but
I need to catch up. Yeah, you recommended it. You had it on your best of list last year when we did this.
Yes. She's nice. She's really good in it.
Yeah, it's not back for a couple months, right? So you get some time to catch up on Season 1.
Yeah, plus Apple's been doing a good job finally of actually doing it weekly. They know better.
Yeah.
Not like Stranger Things that could have just done weekly. They didn't. But Zach, your picks.
My picks for the week, I'm going to go with Hustle because maybe you want to see it in theaters. Maybe you don't feel like seeing it in theaters. It's going to be on Netflix on Wednesday, so you don't even have to wait that long. And it's charming. It's heartwarming, even if you're not a basketball fan. I saw it with Caitlin, who did not know any of the cameos, and she had a good time as well. But
that's good.
Aside from the Netflix pick, my HBO Max pick is, of course, Barry. Catch up with it. Get ready for it. The season finale is Sunday, so you got a little bit of time. It's just an excellent, excellent season of TV. And while you're on HBO Max, you can also catch up on Hacks now that season 2 of Hacks has finished. Hopefully not all of Hacks, but at least
finished. But yeah,
we'll see.
Hacks is great.
But if you are going to theaters, man, don't do Jurassic World like we're talking about. Let's do Mad God. Let's all go see Phil Tippett together in theaters this weekend, and just respect visual craft when it's done properly, when it's given time to flourish and really do something wonderful. I'm very curious to check out Mad God. Hopefully more of you will as well. And hey, if you don't catch it in theaters this week, it'll be on Shudder next week too. So very cool. Think that's about all for this week's show. Want to bring up the one comment from the live stream here. Chloe's asking if we have any plans to watch Irma Vep. Have you heard anything about Irma Vep?
I just know it's Alicia Vikander. That's all I know.
Yeah, it's like Assayas remaking his own movie or show.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh,
kind of interestingly.
All right.
Is that one?
Yeah, I saw a trailer to it. So
yeah, I forgot to add that one to my document, but that one might be coming out soon too. So maybe we'll have to catch that as well. That's also on my radar.
HBO.
Yeah. So another
Okay.
one to add to the sack, but that's about
And A24.
Yeah.
All right.
That's about all for this edition of the Weekend Must Watch. You can catch more from me, Zach Shevich, by following me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd @ZShevich, or catch my YouTube or TikTok channels at Multiplex Show. Art, where can people find more from you?
You can find me over at Elmi Explain on Twitter, on YouTube, on Letterboxd, or every week here on the Intercut podcast.
You can find new episodes of the podcast on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, whatever your favorite podcatcher is. I like Overcast. And then make sure you're not subscribed just to the audio feed, but to the video feed as well on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/IntercutPod, where you can watch our bright smiling faces as we go through the latest in entertainment. Find new episodes of the Intercut Weekly Must Watch streaming on our YouTube channel every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Please leave us a comment, like the video, and consider heading over to our iTunes to give us that much requested 5-star review. Shout out to those listeners in Ecuador and South Africa for putting us on the podcast charts out there. Like our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter pages, support our Patreon. All of them are at Intercut Pod to get updates throughout the week from Art, from me, from all the guests that we feature here on Intercut. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, what's the point of liberation if you can't feel a little liberated? There's like some sneaky, interesting social commentary going on in Fire Island, but it's all like muted by the romantic comedy stuff.